You don't fight, you vanish. Someone crosses you and something just shuts off. There's no conversation, there's no closure, you're just done. And that cold feeling in your chest, the one that shows up every single time, I know you've been calling it strength. Damn it, you even call it having high standards. But if it was strength, why does it keep showing up when you feel small? By the end of this video, you'll understand why going cold never actually made you feel safer, and you will see where this pattern started, which is decades before anyone ever hurt you. And you'll finally name what's underneath all that suspicion. If you ever spend years cutting people off and calling it high standards, I have to break your reality. Sorry for that. But you've been running from the wrong emotion this whole time. Let me show you what I mean. I was in my third year of university, and by now I was living for almost 2 years into the Netherlands. And I've got my own system, I was doing my own notes, my way of processing everything in the language that was not my native one, same as I'm doing now. And then a classmate walks into my room while I'm on vacation, takes some of my notes without even asking me, and when I confront him about it, he comes back and throws them on the floor in front of me. Just so you know, as a brackets, I was living in a shared apartment with the rooms, individual rooms could not be locked. So yeah, it was what it was. And I didn't yell at this guy, I didn't argue, but something inside me just shut off. I cut him off basically completely. There was no conversation in there, no closure, I was just done with him. And here's the part that surprised even me. I also started to look differently at my roommate as well. He's the one who let the guy in, right? He didn't tell me and he didn't stop him. I didn't say anything to my roommate as well. I just quietly pulled back and I started basically to keep score. I was treating both of them like people I had to manage, not like people I could trust. Kind of makes sense, right? I know, it was very principled of me and very consistent. You know what I was actually doing at the time? I was building a courtroom inside my own head. And everyone connected to this, what just happened, got put on trial, with or without their consent. My roommate didn't steal the notes, but he was also guilty by association, makes sense, right? Guilty of basically not protecting me and guilty of not caring enough. At the time, for me, it made complete sense. And the verdict was already decided before this fictional trial in my head even started. And you can guess what the sentence was. It was always the same: you're out. You're basically out of my life. You're done. Does this sound like it you at all? I know, maybe not with the same dorm room story and maybe just not notes that people took from you. But this feeling of putting people on trial inside your head, you're basically building a case against them before they even know they're being judged. So yeah, it's a surprise. You keep a mental file on people, things they said, things they should have said, things they didn't said, things they should have done, all this mumbo jumbo. And one day this file gets so thick that you just close the door on them. And you don't do it loudly, you do it quietly, but you do it permanently. That door stays shut forever. It's basically like a wall now. And that whole time, you think you're being principled, that you have high standards, but here's what I couldn't see back then. This courtroom wasn't about justice. It was about something else entirely. Think about the last time you went cold on someone. And I don't talk about the obvious betrayals. Those are super easy to explain, to be honest. I'm talking about the times where maybe the reaction you had was bigger than the situation deserved, when you pulled back from someone over something that, if you really look back now, wasn't that big of a deal. For sure, I know I did this and I think you did that as well. What was actually happening in that moment? Here's what it took me years to figure it out. I wasn't angry at my roommate or at the guy that took my notes. I was scared. I was scared that I couldn't trust the person I was living with. Scared that if he let someone in once, he will do it again. And scared of what it meant if people closest to me weren't safe. How do you think being scared actually feels like? I'll tell you.
Scared feels really weak, really, really weak. Scared feels like admitting that you're not in control, and if there's one thing you refuse to feel, it's out of control. Every human does that. So your brain does something clever, smart little thing, isn't it? It takes that fear and it wraps it in something that feels powerful. It gives you righteous judgment, cold certainty. I don't need people I can trust. That's it. It's quite clear. Sounds strong, right? Sounds like having high standards. But I really hate to break it to you. It's not standards. It's an armor. And here's what it actually makes it tricky. The armor itself works. Sort of. You feel protected behind that cold wall, basically like in Game of Thrones. You're the one in control, decided who gets in and who gets cut out. Oh boy, I really hate to break it to you, but you're nowhere close in control of this. You don't even know it. The fear is. You're just letting it drive while it wears a suit that looks like conviction. And you want to know what's the worst part of this? Every time you cut someone off, the fear doesn't just go away, it gets louder and louder, because what do you think it happens when there's one fewer person to trust? The world basically just gets a little bit more dangerous in that case. So where did your brain learn this?
Every brain has a window in childhood where it learns how to handle a specific emotion. I have videos on my channel about each of them, please check them out. For fear, the windows is early. It's really, really early. Around 18 months to 2 years old. Picture this. You're a toddler and you start to explore the world. Everything for you is new. You're touching things, you're climbing things, you're wandering into rooms that you've never been before, and then something scares you. Maybe a loud noise, a dog is barking, the vacuum cleaner gets turned on, whatever. Something that feels to a tiny brain like the world just become dangerous. What happens next matters more than you think. If someone picks you up and said, hey, that's okay, that was scary, but you're okay. It's loud, but it won't hurt you. If they let you feel the fear and then shows you that the world is still safe, your brain learns something huge. Fear is basically just information, it's not a verdict, and you can feel afraid and still be okay. That's massive. But a lot of us got something a little bit different. Some of us got parents who were terrified for us. Don't run, you'll fall. Don't climb, you'll get hurt. Don't touch that, it's dangerous. The message wasn't you're safe, the message was the other way around. The world is dangerous and you cannot handle it. Unfortunately, others got the opposite. Parents who didn't even notice the danger at all. Left you deal with the scary situation alone. There was no comfort and no guidance. You figure out pretty fast that nobody was coming to help you. And I hate to break it to you, either way your brain reaches the same conclusion. Fear is not safe to feel, and if fear isn't safe, I need something else. Something that puts me in charge, or at least makes me feel like I'm in charge. So your brain, being the marvel it is, what do you think it did? It built a virtual courtroom or an imaginary courtroom, and it hired you as the judge. Every time something feels scary, every time trust feels risky, every time someone does something that makes you feel exposed, you don't feel fear. You build the case and you deliver the verdict. And unfortunately, the verdict is always guilty. There's no way around it. The thing is, when you were 2 years old, this made perfect sense. You didn't have the words or the tools to process fear. The courtroom kept you functioning and it did a great job. You're not 2 years old anymore. The courtroom never closed and it just got more and more experience with trials.
So there's this guy Frank in one of the books that I read. He owns an accounting firm with two of his partners. They are looking into buying a new building project, and his partner says that it's too much investment, they have family commitments and not enough money. It sounds fair, right? People have their limits and they have their priorities. But unfortunately, Frank doesn't hear I cannot afford it. Frank hears I'm alone in this. And that terrifies him, to be honest. Investing alone, carrying the risk all by yourself, that's the real feeling, fear. But Frank's courtroom is already in session. He starts hiding the company books from his partners. Maybe I think he also got sarcastics in the meeting, starts to questioning their commitment. Are they really into this? Do they actually care about this firm that we're building? Maybe they are planning to leave. He's not angry at them, he's actually terrified of being alone with all this risk. But unfortunately, his brain won't let him know that. So it gives him suspicion instead. And suspicion feels productive. It even feels like you're maybe more intelligent than the person you're suspecting. Like you're the only one paying attention to every detail while everyone else is asleep. Oh, how delusional we can be sometimes without even knowing it. You've done a version of this, and for sure I've done plenty of versions of this. Someone does something that should make you feel vulnerable, and instead of feeling it, you start to build a case against them. You start to notice patterns that maybe aren't even there. You start keeping the score, and every piece of evidence you collect, it makes you feel smarter, more prepared, and more protected. But you're not more protected. You're basically alone in all of this. Here's where it gets really uncomfortable. I learned all of this. I understood exactly why my brain was doing it and when. I could explain it perfectly to my friends if we go to dinner. And I kept holding court anyway. Understanding doesn't close this courtroom. And while you've been busy delivering verdicts left and right, something has been happening that you've been not looking at. Think about all the people who are not in your life anymore. I don't mean the ones who deserve to go, because for sure there are some of those who fully deserve to go. Fuck them. They don't matter. I mean the ones who maybe didn't. The ones who, if you start to look back now, the crime wasn't really that bad. But for you, the verdict was always in. They are guilty, they are out of my life. Think about the people who are still around you, but now they kind of keep their distance if you really think about it. The ones who stop telling you things because they learn to be careful around you, because honesty might trigger a trial in you. And at the end of the day, that's the cost. And it's been accumulating quietly for years. You cut people off to feel safer, but now you're pretty much more alone than before. And the relationships that you have, unfortunately, they are all conditional, even if you want to admit it or not. It's basically one wrong move away from the gravel coming down, and people feel that. They stop getting close to you because closeness is a risk around you. You created that reality. And here's the irony that got me. This courtroom was supposed to protect you from untrustworthy people. Makes perfect sense if you ask me. But unfortunately, it's been quietly convicting trustworthy people too, because compared to real life courtrooms where they should care about facts, this courtroom doesn't care about evidence. It cares about keeping the fear away, stopping it. You can preach about having high standards as much as you want for the rest of your life. You can cut 100 people off, you can cut 1,000 people off of your life. But the fear you've been running away since you're 2 years old is still there, is still sitting in the judge's chair, and you've been running out of people to cut away and to sentence.
So, what do you actually do about this? The first time I caught myself doing this in real time, I was so uncomfortable, I almost talked myself out of it. Someone did something, I noticed it because I'm really good at it, and I was already starting to build a case. I was already collecting evidence and rehearsing the verdict in my head. And instead of delivering it, I did something that felt at the time completely wrong. I paused the trial. I did not pause the anger or the judgment, I just paused the trial. I caught myself mid-prosecution, if you want, and asked, what am I actually protecting myself from right now? Not what did they do wrong. I already had the whole file on what they did wrong. My brain is very thorough on that. The question was different. What feels dangerous here, and what am I scared of happening if I let this go? And the answer was quieter than I expected. I was scared that if I let this slide, it would happen again, that people would learn that they could cross me, that I'd be someone people don't respect. I'm sorry to break this to you, but that's not judgment. That is fear. Fear of being vulnerable, fear of being the person who gets taken advantage of. And once I could see it as fear instead of principle, something weird happened. That cold started to soften, not to disappear overnight, but to soften. The courtroom didn't just shut down overnight. But for the first time, I could see the judge and the scared kid that they were the same person. Next time you feel yourself going cold, next time you catch yourself building a case against someone in your head, don't fight the judgment. Just notice it and then look underneath. Not what did they do, because you already know that part and you're really good at it. Ask yourself what feels dangerous right now. What am I scared of losing in this moment? And then do the part that feels the strangest. Say it. Even if it's to yourself. I'm not angry of what I did, I'm scared of what it means, I'm scared of being the person people don't respect. You don't have to say it to them, you have to say it to yourself first. You have to start changing yourself and not them, because the second you name the fear, this courtroom loses some of its power. You're not fighting this armor that you created when you're 2 years old. You finally start to see what was built to protect.
I wish I could tell you I've caught this immediately and I figured it out super early, but I didn't. That classmate, I stay cold on him for the rest of the university. We still don't speak to this day. That roommate, our relationship was never the same, still not the same. We don't keep in touch. Not because of what they did, but because I convicted them in a trial that they didn't know it was happening. And by the time I learned about this, the verdicts were already delivered and the cases were closed and these people were gone from my life. But if I look back, not to them specifically, I can see every moment the judgment was actually fear. Every time I went cold on someone because I was scared and not because I was the smartest one in the room or the strongest one. Every conversation that got harder because I couldn't say, that scared me. So instead I said, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. The favorite phrase of someone who cannot say, that hurt me. I hope you don't have to wait as long as I did. I know the courtroom is still there, and to be honest, it might always be there, but you can learn how to pause it and how to look underneath all that facade. I want you to remember this thing. You can feel anything, but you cannot react however you want. And once you start to see this in yourself, I think something unexpected happens, and honestly it's quite beautiful. You start to see it in other people as well. The friend who always goes cold on you, maybe the partner who keeps the score, and maybe you have a colleague that always questions everyone's loyalty to the project. All those people, they are not difficult. Unfortunately, they are all scared, the same as you were at 2 years old, the same as they were. It's basically the same courtroom, the same judge, and it's the same sentence all over again. That cold feeling, the one that shows up every single time someone crosses you, now you know what it is. Unfortunately, it's not strength, and for sure, it's not high standards. It's a courtroom your brain built when you were too small to feel afraid. And it's been handing verdicts left and right ever since. And it's quite good at it. But the fear was never the problem. It was seeing it clearly that was the problem. And if you've gone cold on someone and you don't fully understand why, I love to hear what clicked with you. Consider leaving a comment and I promise to read and to reply to all of them. I make more videos like this one, and if this helped you see something that maybe you didn't see before, consider subscribing. There's for sure more coming. Take care of yourself. I really mean that. Bye-bye.